A warm welcome to everybody. Thank you for opening up this video, which is a short and brief explanation of the poem The Windhover by Gerard Manley Hopkins. Hopkins' poetry is maybe some of the most beautiful in the English language. It can be a little bit hard to understand, and sometimes it's good to go through a poem and figure out exactly what the author is trying to say or trying to describe or trying to transmit, and then go back to the poem again with maybe a slightly better understanding of what the poem means. I have the text here in front of me. I know the poem off by heart, but I'm not going to risk missing out a word or a mistake, so I'm unashamedly going to use the text. So Hopkins begins, and we guess that he must have been walking outside in the morning, and he sees a falcon in the sky gliding as falcons do. And at some stage, this falcon must have seen something that it wants on the ground, because it, as falcons do, well, Hopkins says it buckles. It folds its wings in to dive, and almost becomes a dart, an arrow flying down towards the ground after whatever it is that it's in, presumably a piece of prey. So he's watching this falcon and he begins his poem. I caught this morning. I caught him. It must have caught him, caught the corner of his eye. Morning's minion. A minion is a servant. So he describes this falcon as the servant of the morning. Kingdom of Daylight's dauphin. Dauphin is the old word. I think it's an old word for a prince, an old French word for prince. So he describes this falcon as the prince of the kingdom of daylight. A dapple dawn-drawn falcon. Hopkins uses this word dapple a lot to describe colours, which he never saw as just one block colour. He always saw shades and shadows in every colour and in the relationship of that colour to the colours around it. And he uses this word dapple to show that things are not immediately as they seem. When you take a closer look at anything, there's a lot more variety there, and he uses this word dapple to suggest that variety. A dawn falcon, as if the dawn is drawing the falcon in his riding of the rolling level underneath him steady air. So you can imagine, as birds do, especially birds of prey, that they glide through the air, riding on convections of air. Striding high there, he must have been quite high in the sky. He rung upon the rein of a wimpling wing in his ecstasy. Again, he's riding and appears to be in ecstasy at his ability to be able to do this. I guess Hopkins' heart, as well he says so later on in the poem, soars and aspires to this amazing creature, and how he is in perfect harmony with the air. Then off forth on a swing. So I guess suddenly after this riding of the air, he saw the falcon suddenly pick up speed and aim off in a certain direction. And he says he made a turn, so as a skate's heel, as a skater on ice sweeps smooth on a bow bend. The hurl and gliding rebuffed the big wind. So he must have been flying against the direction of the wind very successfully. He's rebuffing the wind. Then Hopkins says, my heart in hiding. Inside him, his heart obviously hiding inside his body in that sense. This is an external show of the magnificence of nature. And Hopkins' heart is hidden deep inside. It's stirred for this bird. He says the achiever of the mastery of the thing. So Hopkins is in rapture and amazement and awe and admiration of this amazing bird riding in the air. Or riding the air, I should say. Brute beauty and valor and act. O air, pride, plume. He's trying to find words to describe this magnificent thing that he's looking at, because then he says all these amazing qualities buckle. This bird folds its wings, and he puts "and" in big capital letters in his writing. the fire that breaks from thee then. So as the bird folds its wings and turns to dive, he describes it as if the bird has become a spark. I've said the word arrow, which is probably not the best description, to turn into a spark falling from heaven. You can almost imagine in Greek mythology the thunderbolts of Zeus coming from the sky. And he says it breaks into fire, 1,000,000,000 times told lovelier. And also imagine that maybe the sun has caught this bird as it's buckled and turned into an arrow, that somehow the sun has caught it, and more dangerous. And he says, oh, my chevalier. It could be chevalier, but chevalier probably because he's used the word here before, so that is probably how it was supposed to be pronounced, to rhyme with here maybe. Obviously a chevalier is a hero, somebody who comes to save you. And then he moves on to a more reflective mode, maybe almost a bit annoyed at himself for being so amazed at this falcon flying, because then he says, well, no wonder of it. He's almost rebuking himself and saying, why are you so surprised that nature is this magnificent and this bird is this beautiful? No wonder. Sheer plod, normal everyday hard work, makes plough down Cillian shine. They said even the dirt of the fields, once it catches the sun, can look absolutely beautiful. It makes the hard work, just the normal dirt on the ground, shine and appear beautiful. And then he talks about blue, bleak embers, referring to a dying fire. And he says that they fall, they gall, they collapse in on themselves. If you watch a fire dying, the last part of it is it just before it goes out and the stock of the flammable material collapses, it falls in on itself, and you get a sudden last-minute burst of colour. And he calls that colour gash gold vermilion, almost like reminds me a bit of a horror film when you've got someone slashing, a gash, a knife mark in the skin. That this is a gash as the embers fall, and he uses this word gold vermilion to describe it, which is a beautiful way to describe a colour, I think. I'm going to read the poem one more time, and hopefully it will make a little bit more sense if the language seemed a bit confusing before. I caught this morning's minion, kingdom of daylight's doth, a dappled dawn-drawn falcon, in his riding of the rolling level underneath him steady air, and striding high there, how he rung upon the rein of a wimpling wing in his ecstasy. Then off forth on a swing, as a skate's heel sweeps smooth on a bow bend. The hurl and gliding rebuffed the big wind. My heart in hiding stirred for a bird, the achieve of the mastery of the thing. Brute beauty and valour and act, O air, pride, plume, here buckle, and the fire that breaks from thee then, 1,000,000,000 times told lovelier, more dangerous, O my chevalier. No wonder of it. Sheer plod makes plough down Cillian shine, and blue bleak embers, my dear, fall, gall themselves, and gash gold vermilion. Thank you for listening, and I hope I've encouraged you to love Gerard Manley Hopkins almost as much as I do. That wasn't a very good rendition of the poem, and on my other YouTube video I do read the poem, I think, in a much better way. So please, in order to enjoy the poem, please go over to my other YouTube video where I just read the poem straight. And I hope that you begin to fall in love with Gerard Manley Hopkins just as much as I have since I first got to know him as a poet in my teens. Thank you very much for listening to this video.